Okay. Aloha, and thank you all so much for taking time out of your evening to come and hear this information session. I'm Vivian, and I'm with Early Childhood Action Strategy. I'm the strategy and project management lead at that organization, and I'm one of the co-leads for the Child Care Cost Modeling Project. So I'm here today to give you a little bit of an informational overview about the project and to give you a basic walkthrough through this survey tool that you received, and to talk to you about some different supports that we've got available, and answer some basic questions. So this is our agenda for the information session, which I kind of just went over in that explanation. I'm going to start out with a description of what cost modeling is and what this particular project is about. And then you all should have received a survey through email from Patch. And what I'm going to do is do a basic walkthrough of the Family Child Care Survey tool with you all. And then talk to you about some incentives that we've got in place for people to complete surveys, and some different kinds of help that we've lined up to assist you all with completing the surveys. Then talk through the timeline a bit and just have some open Q&A with you all. We're a small group, and so it should be pretty informal other than me talking at you as we go through this slide deck. So feel free to, since we're so small, to pop off and let me know if you have any questions as we go along, or just go ahead and type into the chat box any questions that you have, and I'll try to answer them as we go along. And then we'll have sort of an open Q&A at the end where if I didn't get a chance to cover something or you have some questions come up towards the end, we can go to them then. Okay. So starting off, I just wanted to explain to you what a cost model is. The project is the Hawaiʻi Child Care Cost Modeling Project. And what cost modeling is an attempt to measure the true cost of implementing a particular program or service. And in our case, we're talking about providing childcare services. So what we're trying to do is understand what the real costs of providing quality care looks like. And how those costs really change according to the different kinds of quality standards you might be following, or the different kinds of income you're bringing in, or if you happen to have any staff, any kind of wages you are paying out. As well as how costs can really vary according to, the size of your program, how many kids you've got enrolled, and the geography of where you live. We all know that costs can look really different from island to island and county to county, whether you're in a rural area or an urban area. Those are all impacts to what your costs look like. And so we're trying to understand the true costs so that we can use that information to help improve the kind of funding coming into the childcare system, so we can work on improving compensation and wages and income for our childcare providers, and help set the different kinds of rates in our system for reimbursing for childcare. So our childcare subsidy rates, for instance, or contracted rates. So what cost modeling does is it takes a look at all the different kinds of criteria that inform costs. So program requirements, quality standards, ratios and group sizes, geography, like I mentioned, wages if you have staff and are paying staff, what your rent or mortgage looks like, and what your program costs are like. So a cost model tries to collect as much data as possible on all of that to try and come up with more accurate measures of what the true cost of providing childcare is about. So this particular project came about because Hawaiʻi was selected as part of a national cohort through the Children's Funding Project, which is a national nonprofit organization that's supporting different state partners in building their own ability to do cost modeling. So we're participating as a state in a national cohort. You can see the list of the other states involved in the cohort. And we're getting technical assistance and training and support from Children's Funding Project with the outcome of building the skills and expertise with different partners in the state. So we have the ability to do cost modeling on an ongoing basis. And with this particular project, a goal of producing a specific cost model around childcare. And you'll see the partners who are involved in the project on the right side of that slide. I mentioned myself as part of Early Childhood Action Strategy as being one of the leads on the project. The other lead on the project is Jordana Ferreira, who's the coordinator for the City and County of Honolulu, the Early Childhood Coordinator. And we've got a really robust, diverse advisory group. We've got the County of Maui, the Department of Human Services, so the Child Care Program Office is involved in the project. We also have the Department of Health involved because they're also invested in supporting childcare. We have Hawaiʻi Children's Action Network, our lead early childhood and childcare advocacy organization. Patch, our childcare resource and referral agency, Learning to Grow, which hopefully all of you are familiar with as family childcare providers, who does professional development and training and TA and recruitment for family childcare. And then UH Manoa's ECE3 project, which is really working on improving workforce compensation and workforce diversity and recruitment and retention issues around the workforce. So they're all project partners because they're all really bought into the importance of cost modeling and the value of cost modeling for our childcare system. So we have a particular cost modeling goal here in Hawaii. Our project partners helped us develop this, and that is to estimate the true cost of providing care in our licensed and registered childcare settings. So our infant toddler centers, our group childcare centers, and all of you, our family childcare home providers. We're interested in childcare for children birth to 5 years old specifically, so we don't have our before and after school programs involved in this particular project. And we're trying to come up with measures of the true cost of care, both at the statewide level and also at the different county levels, because we know that costs can look really different based on the different islands providers might be on and children might be on. And the different kinds of city and county conditions that impact cost of childcare. So you may be asking why we want to bother to do this project. And that's because the information is really important to drive the policy and funding solutions we need to help improve access to quality childcare and to improve conditions for all of you who are our childcare provider community. We are hoping that our cost modeling information will help guide funding and grant priorities at the local, county, and state levels. A lot of folks around the country use cost modeling information, and we'd love to use it to help inform the payment rate structure for our childcare subsidy programs here in Hawaii. This information is also used to set rates for contracts, which is a new thing on the horizon here in Hawaii, where in addition to providing subsidy to individual families, we will see soon contracts to childcare providers to provide care for subsidy eligible families, and the kinds of information we can get from cost modeling can help set rates for contracted care. And then also cost modeling information has been used around the country to help improve workforce compensation by helping to inform the development of different kinds of initiatives like wage supplements and stipends for our childcare professionals in the state. So that's why we're working on this project. So a big part of this project, key contribution to the effort, is around getting information from all of you as our childcare providers around what your costs look like and what your revenue looks like. And so the data on the delivery of services and the revenue sources that all of you have to support your childcare service delivery. We're trying to collect information about all of that in the form of surveys. And so you'll see on this slide here all the different kinds of elements on which we need to try and collect information to do this cost modeling work. So what I'd like to do is to take a look at the Family Childcare Survey tool and do a basic walkthrough of that with you and answer some basic questions. Now, you all should have received an email last Thursday coming from Patch or the different county coordinators or island coordinators from Patch. They are great partners in this effort and sent out those emails on Thursday with links to the survey template specific for you for the family childcare template. And so if you haven't already had a chance to poke around in there, I'm going to open up the template here. And this is exactly what should happen when you do this through your email, when you click on the link to open up your survey template. So what you'll see is a blue button in the right corner of your screen, and we're going to click on that, and that's what you all should do as well when you open up your email and click on the link. And what that does is it opens an individualized survey for each of you. So even though there's one common link that you all use to access the survey, by clicking on that Use Template blue button, it will create your own version of that template for you to use and respond to as your survey link. So the survey is in Google Sheets. And when you open up your survey template, you'll first see this first tab, which is kind of like the instruction sheet. It provides a basic overview and information and instructions on how to complete your survey. So if you'll see down here, there are two different tabs, and we are on the first tab here, the Intro and Instructions tab. So at the top of the Intro and Instructions tab is just a description of the project and the purpose of the survey. And I want to point out here that it also provides a note here about confidentiality. We know we're asking you all for sensitive information about essentially what your budgets look like, what your costs look like, what kind of revenue you bring in. And we just want to assure you that your surveys, your submissions will be kept confidential. So the purpose of this survey is to come up with summary information and average figures. So your program-specific information will not be shared out in any way. All of your information is going to sort of roll up into like a summary data set, and we're going to be averaging figures. And so the information you submit on your survey, the only folks who will see it will be those of us who are doing the data entry and the data analysis, and the information that gets reported out will all be in summary form and will look like averages. And so we want to assure you about the confidentiality of your information. And we'll also be downloading your information and keeping it in a password protected data storage application. So I wanted to provide that assurance before we continue to go on. So instruction-wise, we're asking you to fill out the expense and revenue tab here. And we'd like you to report on your 2024 budget actuals, which hopefully the timing is convenient since the tax deadline, your income tax deadline just passed. And so you'll hopefully have all of your 2024 budget actuals sort of handy, or at least everything's all sort of tied up there since you did have to just submit taxes. We recommend before you sit down to fill out the survey that you do try to just pull together some basic information, or at least have it relatively handy to refer to fill out the information. There's information here about the incentives that we're offering, and I'll go into that in a little detail a little bit later. And just some instructions on how to submit your survey. My contact information as your go-to if you have any questions or need any help. And then in red here, the survey deadline, which is May 31st. And then some information also on the different kinds of help that we're going to be offering. And I'll go over that after we go through the survey tool itself. But I just want to note that it's here on that first tab of your survey tool. So if you need to look back on it, you can find it there. And then just an overview again of the different partners involved in the project. So diving into the nitty-gritty of the survey tool itself, just increasing the view a little bit in case it's too small on your screens. Okay. So I know that if you're not familiar with using spreadsheets and what have you, this might look like a lot. And in some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't. But I want to assure you that we're trying to make different kinds of help available to you if you're not familiar with using spreadsheets or you have questions on how to fill out this tool. But we start out really basic, just name of program, license information, and just some details about your operations. So months, days, and hours, total hours you provide childcare. And as family childcare providers, we know you put in a whole lot of other time beyond just the hours of care that you're open and serving children. And so we want to be able to incorporate that into the cost estimates of doing care and operating a family childcare business. So we do ask you for some estimates around the other hours you put in to your business beyond the hours that you're doing care for children. Some contact information, and then we do ask you for some information about whether you're accredited. And I just wanted to point this out as an example. In some of these fields, you'll see these little triangle carets, and that indicates that it's a drop-down list that you can choose from. So if you click on the little caret to answer the question, you just click on whatever appropriate response fits for you here. So for instance here, I'm going to say, yes, FCC accredited. And I don't think I said this to start with, but it's on the instruction sheet. You are just being asked to fill out the blue areas on the survey tool.
I have a question this area.
Sure.
Let's see. EHS/HS partnerships FCC site. I don't know what does it mean.
Yes. So there are some family childcare providers that are working with an early Head Start or Head Start organization.
Oh, okay.
And they're providing family childcare to early Head Start or Head Start children. And so so if you are that kind of site working with one of our Head Start, early Head Start agencies, we ask that you mark that off.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And we put it in that category because while it's not technically a form of accreditation, early Head Start and Head Start have a set of performance standards that in many cases sort of mirror the kinds of quality standards that exist with accreditation. And so if you are participating as an early Head Start or Head Start provider, we thought you could check that off there.
Okay, all clear. Thanks.
Okay, sure thing. So then moving down a little further, we're asking for some information about your enrollment. What does your desired capacity look like? We know you have a specific, every family childcare provider has a specific licensed capacity, but you may be choosing a different kind of capacity just based on your comfort level with the amount of space in your home, or what your ideal number is for your particular preference of how many children you feel like you want to serve in your program. And so that's why we'd like you to put that figure into these areas here, your desired capacity. And we also know that you don't necessarily have a desired capacity by each individual age year. And so we just sort of created these lump categories for you of our an infant and toddler care category from birth to 2, and then a preschool category of 3 to 5, and then a school age category, kindergarten and up. And so, and I know I said that we are only doing cost modeling for children birth to 5, but as family childcare providers, we know you can serve children all the way up through school age. And of course, any care and any costs that you incur involve potentially school age costs. And so we're collecting that information for the overall picture of your program. So we have a desired capacity question, and then what your actual average enrollment looks like in each of the age groups, the number of full-time children you have in each of those ages, and the number of part-time children you have, and then any of your own children that might be in your home that you're providing care to. The next section of this survey is about personnel, if you happen to have any. This probably doesn't apply to the majority of family childcare providers, but we do know that some of you have aides or assistants helping out. And so if you do, we'd like you to enter some information about that into this section here. And so we have some different types of potential employees listed here. And we are asking for information about wages, a number of hours worked, and wages if you do have staff or employees. And then total annual wages that you may pay out to any staff that you have. And then if you do have staff, information about benefits, which you could list as either a percentage or as an amount that you pay out per staff person for federal payroll tax, unemployment tax, workers' compensation. And then again, if you do have staff and you do provide benefits for that staff, information on benefits. So you'll see a couple of other drop downs here about whether you pay federal payroll tax. And then if you have staff and you do pay for any of benefits for those staff, which kind of benefits you provide. A totaling of annual benefits, which you'll see is a white field, which means you don't have to enter anything. It's going to just total things from the blue boxes above. And then going on, expenses, non-staff, non-personal related expenses. So first section here, we're asking for your annual household expense for these different categories. And we are going to calculate time space percentage for you all to sort of prorate those amounts. And so you'll see some questions on the right side of this section that asks for some details about your home, the square footage, and the percent of space that you use for childcare. And that will allow us to calculate that time space percentage and prorate those household expenses for you. And then moving beyond those household expenses and more specifically to your program expenses or childcare service expenses, asking you to list your estimated annual expenses for food, supplies and equipment, any advertising, any kinds of insurance, legal and accounting services, equipment, computer and tech expenses, professional associations, all those kinds of things that are listed here. And what I want to note is that if any of you are using Patch's shared resources platform, they have some budget templates and budget tools available through the shared resources, the help platform. And we tried to sort of mimic those templates there. So if you happen to have used any of their templates, hopefully it'll be very easy for you to fill this out. And on the flip side, Patch is offering, if you're interested in getting a budget completed, if you want to share, if you want to provide your permission to share your survey information with Patch, Patch will actually create a budget for you based on the survey information that you fill out and send that back to you for your use. So, and that's a question at the bottom that you can respond to related to that. So after the expense section, we do ask for revenue information. The most obvious being what you collect in terms of tuition from families. If you are able to break out what you collect in tuition from what you get directly from families versus what you potentially get from subsidy, that would be great. That's the difference here. And then any other income that you might get, again, from early Head Start, I mentioned if you are participating with a Head Start or early Head Start agency, food program income, reimbursement income, if you happen to do any kinds of events or fundraisers, or you get any special grants from foundations or philanthropy. Because we're looking at 2024 budgets and revenue, if you did get any kind of ARPA supplemental childcare grants through DHS, we're asking that you enter that information as well. If you give any families any kinds of tuition discounts, you give them a reduced rate on tuition. We'd like you to enter sort of the negative figure that you aren't able to collect in tuition from those families, because again, we're trying to get at the real costs of doing care, and any losses that you take on tuition factors in to the real costs of doing care, as well as any other kind of debt that you've sort of given up on being paid out on, if you could enter that as a negative figure. A little bit more on subsidy. We are asking for information on any of the types of subsidy that you participate in or are willing to participate in. It's a drop-down list, and this kind of drop-down list, you'll see select all that apply. It allows you to select multiple options here. And then final section on subsidy here in terms of whether there are particular ages that you accept subsidy for, and any number of children that you might currently have on subsidy or that you are discounting in some way. And then the final section of the survey really is about any special populations. The advisory group is very interested in learning about access to childcare for our Native Hawaiian children, as well as any children experiencing housing insecurity or homeless. And we know that you might not know this information about the children and family in your programs, but if you do, if you can insert any numbers into the survey, that'd be a really great help. And then at the very end of the survey, we just have an open-ended comment box here. If you want to explain anything that you put into the survey that you just want to provide more detail on, or is an unusual looking figure for you and you want to explain, this is really an open-ended space for you to pop anything into there. And then, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, if you are interested in having Patch create a tailored budget document for your program that you can use annually, you can indicate here whether you are interested and are willing to have your survey information shared with Patch for that purpose. And then finally, just because this is our first time doing this kind of survey, and we want to be realistic about how much time is involved for you all in completing the survey, we'd love it if you'd be able to just pop in a note about how long it took you to do the survey. It's the survey content. Um, Once you're done with the survey, we ask you to, and the instructions for this are on the first tab. We just ask you to click the share button here, and you would add in my email address into this box here, and then hit done and submit. And it will just send a copy to me, which I will download into that password protected app that we have here, the storage app. And that's it. Okay. Darlene, I see your hand up for a question.
Yes, Vivian. Thank you, Vivian. I wanted to ask you, you know how on the bottom you said that we can send the info to Patch if we can say yes or no.
Uh-huh.
Would that also be privacy and confidential also?
So Patch, I have to talk to Patch about that. That is a great question. I didn't incorporate that information, but they also have mechanisms for keeping the information confidential. They would not have any intent to share out your information other than to build the budget document and get that back to you for your use.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions about the survey tool? It was a basic walkthrough, and there are other opportunities to get help if you're in the middle of filling out the survey and would like support. But I can answer some basic questions if you have any.
About the line 100, do you accept subsidy? Yes or no question? I mean, right now or future? Or...
Here. This here? This is just whether you're willing to accept subsidy, yes or no, for these different ages.
Okay.
And then the next two questions are about right now, you know, do you have children receiving subsidy to your knowledge?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, sure thing.
I have a question.
Yes.
In regards to filling out this survey, I started,
Uh-huh.
and every time I would punch in my answers,
Uh-huh.
it would back out and go to the beginning. So I was like, is there a certain time that I was supposed to input it, or like was it too early that I started? It was Today is Thursday. I started it yesterday, yesterday or Tuesday.
I'm not aware of that problem. So you would, for instance, go into a
So
square.
in the beginning part where it has my further up,
Okay, here.
right there, my name, the program name,
Uh-huh.
and then my license number. When I pressed in my license number, it got me out. And after I was like, oh, what happened? So I started all over again. And then so when I went to the months of operation where I put January to right when I started December, it bumped me out again.
I will look into it, but I'm not familiar with the problem. So what I'm doing right now is I've created a template just like you would have completed a template, and it does not seem to be replicating the problem that you're talking about. It's not doing what you're saying, and so
Right.
it's
And I did put my answer down
uh-huh,
in the blue section.
uh-huh, okay. I was going
And
to ask where it went into the white. Maybe that's why it was bouncing you out.
I was in the blue section
Uh-huh.
and I was like, so what's going on? And I was like, right when I was at the end, are you currently accredited?
Okay. Yes.
Because I kept on being bumped out.
Uh-huh.
I said, okay, you know what? Maybe because I'm using a laptop, that's why it's doing it.
Okay.
So I said, I need help.
It shouldn't be happening to you. And so that's a really good segue to talk about the different kinds of help that we've set up. So you can come to a specific office hour and get direct help from me with your specific survey. So we'll talk about that in a minute because the problem that you're talking about is not familiar to me. And so it might be most helpful for us to look at it one-on-one and you can try to recreate the problem and we can troubleshoot from there.
Okay, also, a lot of times we're really occupied during the day and just when the kids are asleep, I'm able to call.
Yes.
Um, the numbers that we call, will we always get somebody to answer the phone? Or because when we was with the grant
Uh-huh.
and whenever the person pick up the phone, or sometimes they don't even pick up the line.
Yes.
And we was getting problems. And sometimes when we asked a question, they didn't know the answer, or we had multiple different answers. So I
Okay.
was like, oh my gosh, with this grant, I'm really struggling.
Okay. So with this particular effort, I don't actually have an office, and so the technical assistance that we'll be providing will be just like this, by coming into a Zoom together, and being able to look at your survey tool together. Uh,
Oh, perfect.
so we'll have emails, and then we'll have these kinds of video sessions, video call sessions to work
Cool.
things together. Okay. And by the way, you talked about the time it takes to do a survey and wanting to sort of come back and forth to do the survey. I just wanted to show that if you just bookmark your web page, which is typically by just clicking this star up here, um,
Mm-hmm.
and hitting save.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll save the web page on your toolbar up here. You'll see all of my saved bookmarks up
Right,
here.
right. Oh,
And
perfect.
you can just return to your bookmarked page at another time and continue filling out the survey. It should save your information from each time that you work on it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
I kind of went over this before, but again, just want to assure the confidentiality and the privacy of your information. It's going to sit with those of us who are working specifically on our project, and your individual level data isn't going to go out. And all of our reporting and our cost modeling information will be in a summary format. We do. We are really eager to get participation in the survey. And so we're really pleased to be able to offer incentives and thank yous to those of you who participate and submit surveys. So we have $100 gift cards available for our participating family childcare providers. The first 25 providers who respond will be guaranteed of getting a gift card. And then we have additional gift cards available that will be distributed by random drawing. And we'll be starting the gift card distribution later on in May, and then that'll run through June because we'll want to wait until the deadline passes before we do the random drawing of folks who get gift cards. So the technical assistance and support, one of those is doing these information sessions, what I'm doing here right now with all of you. And we've got sessions for our center-based programs and our family childcare. You graciously allowed me to record the session so that we can post this on the website so anybody who wasn't able to make one of the live information sessions can view a recording at any time on their own time. And then what I was just talking about is our virtual office hours. So on Mondays and Thursdays, I'm going to have virtual office hours starting next week through the whole survey period through May 31st. And so for all of you as family childcare providers, every Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m., from 6 to 7 p.m., I'm just going to sit in a Zoom and be available for any kind of drop-in or small group assistance that any of you might need. So no appointment necessary. I'm just going to sit in the Zoom and be available, and you can drop in and we'll go through and I can answer questions and provide support on your specific survey. So feel free to take advantage of that as you're doing your surveys if you need it. And then for any of you who might be based here in Honolulu County on Oahu, Jordana Ferreira, the early childhood coordinator for the city and county, she's going to make herself available for on-site visits to do on-site assistance for folks. And so that's just by appointment. And so you just need to contact Jordana to set that up if you're interested in it. And then we did some basic we did a basic overview and training with the patch and learning to grow staff. So they're available by phone for just some really basic question and answer. So they'll know who to refer you to or where to refer you for more information. They haven't been trained on the survey and helping to do TA on the survey, but they're there if you just forgot where you can find some information or need that link again or something like that. They can be sort of a first line available by phone for those kinds of questions. And then what I want to direct you to is the web page we've created for the project. So that also is a great one-stop shop for you all. So it's got the link to every survey. It's got the instruction sheet for every survey. It provides the information about gift card incentives. It provides the links to those virtual office hours that I was talking about. See the Zoom links here and here. What I also want to show you is that there's a tip sheet here for any of you who haven't used Google Sheets before or forgot what I've mentioned in this session here about how to click around through the survey tool. Use template button to open up the survey tool. Just a reminder about the tabs at the bottom. This is some center-based information, so you don't have this personnel worksheet, so don't worry about that. Just some basics about making sure you just put your information into the blue fields. I showed you how the drop-down lists work, but this tip sheet also kind of explains that. How to use those drop-down lists. Let's see. Correcting errors or accidents. You know, if I put in the wrong license number here, you know, you just need to click on this undo or back button here, and it'll go back and go back from whatever you last typed into the tool is. Yeah, so basic tips on how to save or bookmark your survey, little walkthrough of that. And then just again about submitting your survey, how to click on that link and put in my email and send off the saved survey. Okay. Yeah. So you can access the website at any time to find any information or links. And the web page is also linked in the email that you received with the survey information and the survey link. Just a review of the timeline, all those TA supports that I mentioned, we'll have them available through May 31st, which is the deadline for completing the survey, May 31st. Those gift card incentives we'll start distributing mid to later May, and we'll distribute through June. And the results of the project and the survey, we'll be doing some top stories and putting out like a report or a brief about the findings. And that'll happen later in the fall. other kinds of questions you might have. I did a lot of talking, I know, but I appreciated you all chiming in with questions as we went along. What other kinds of questions can I help answer, if any? I think it's a good sign. Hopefully information was clear.
Yeah, actually, you did. You're very definitive on describing it, especially when you showed the click down boxes. That helps out a lot.
Oh, good.
Yeah, thank
Good
you.
to hear. That's great. Well, that kind of wraps it up then. My contact information is there, and it should also be in the email that got sent out. Like I said, I don't have an office space with an office phone for to be able to receive calls, but you can email me, and you can drop into the virtual office hour sessions on Monday and Thursday evenings. And then Jordana also is available by email and by appointment if you want her to drop in to help you in person.
Thank you so much for your help and giving all the information.
Oh, no,
You
thank you
did
so
really great.
much. No, I so appreciate you coming to hear about the project, to do a walkthrough. I'm hoping that means that you're willing to do this survey, and so appreciate you for your interest and willingness to participate. So yeah, just please feel free to reach out or to pop into an office session. And I'd be happy to provide whatever support I can.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good
Bye
night.
now.
Have a good
Okay,
evening.
bye. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.